We have thousands of people who go missing every year, just here in the United States, and there's no discrimination on the missing. They are young, old, black, white, male or female, even children. It's time to stop. Here at Coles is still missing, and they've not found any new clues. It's women who are pregnant, it's women who have jobs, and it's women who have not received even fetal abductions. Have you seen me? Hey there guys, welcome to Chasing the Murder Talking News. I want to take a second to ask you guys to please, if you like this channel and you want to help it out, you can press the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also hit the notification bell if you like notices whenever we have new uploads. I want to mention I haven't had time to really set my YouTube up with the modern. I guess you can now make it to where you can donate to YouTube. Haven't had the chance to update that. But you can go to Patreon and actually donate a one-time donation if you would like to help in that way as well. So right now, we're going to continue the series that's attached to the Lori Vallow case. So right now, we are on part 11 of Life Beyond the Grave. We've learned quite a bit. I want to say, if you haven't watched part 1, do so. So we're continuing on 2004, and we have learned that Annie Cushing, who is Joe Ryan's sister, at some point between 2003 and 2007, she has testified against her brother. This is because Lori, at the time, Lori Ryan, asked Annie to testify against Joe. This is interesting that Lori feels so comfortable enough to do that. And it makes you wonder, is Annie talking to Lori at Lori's level, which means that include a lot of drama? And does she testify about her brother's rage issue? Annie says that she felt that Kobe was not safe with her brother Joe at one point, but later says something different. Not sure why she does that, but I guess maybe it's not so important. But it is important to the fact that Colby insinuates that Joe was abusive towards him later, which we'll go in more details later. Something we do learn from Joe's sister Annie is when Joe smokes pot, we learned that he's very calm. Annie says it's like he's a total different person. So that's very interesting. So we know how Lori feels about drugs and alcohol. So is Joe smoking while he's with her? Does that play a role in, the rage that Annie talks about? Also, while Joe Ryan and Lori Vallow are divorced, Annie is still in contact with Lori, and I know I've mentioned this several times, but they seem to get together occasionally and go on vacations together with their children, but I haven't really gotten any details on that. Also, around this time, the LDS Church has a conference every year, so several conferences. But in 2004, I think it's important to note that this is about the same time that Chad is talking about end days and having visions. And the church is having a conference addressing the second coming. So I want to play this clip. So this is at the LDS conference 2004.
In modern revelation, we have the promise that if we are prepared, we need not fear. I was introduced to that principle 60 years ago this summer when I became a Boy Scout and learned the Scout motto, be prepared. Today, I have felt prompted to speak of the importance of preparation for a future event of supreme importance to each of us, the second coming of the Lord. The scriptures are rich in references to the second coming, an event eagerly awaited by the righteous and dreaded or denied by the wicked. The faithful of all ages have pondered the sequence and meaning of the many events prophesied to precede and follow this hinge point of history. Four matters are indisputable to Latter-day Saints. One, the Savior will return to the earth in power and great glory to reign personally during a millennium of righteousness and peace. Two, at the time of his coming, there will be a destruction of the wicked and a resurrection of the righteous. Three, no one knows the time of his coming. But four, the faithful are taught to study the signs of it and to be prepared for it. I wish to speak about the fourth of these great realities, the signs of the second coming, and what we should do to prepare for it.
In 2004, it's evident that they're saying that no one knows when the second coming is going to happen. However, this is in the documents and the doctrine, telling believers to look into the heavens for signs of the second coming. Just to basically, your whole entire life, you should be looking for signs. Let's continue on.
Biblical and modern prophecies give many signs of the second coming. These include the fullness of the gospel restored and preached in all the world for a witness to all nations. False Christs and false prophets deceiving many. Wars and rumors of wars, with nation rising against nation. Earthquakes in diverse places. Famine and pestilence. An overflowing scourge, a desolating sickness covering the land. Iniquity abounds, the whole earth in commotion, and men's hearts fail them. In another revelation, the Lord declares that some of these signs are his voice calling his people to repentance. Hearken, O ye nations of the earth, and hear the words of that God who made you. How oft have I called upon you by the mouth of my servants, and by the ministering of angels, and by mine own voice, and by the voice of thunderings, and by the voice of lightnings, and by the voice of tempests, and by the voice of earthquakes, and great hailstorms, and by the voice of famines, and pestilences of every kind, and would have saved you with an everlasting salvation, but ye would not. These signs of the second coming are all around us and seem to be increasing in frequency and intensity. For example, the list of major earthquakes in the World Almanac and Book of Facts shows twice as many earthquakes in the decades of the 1980s and 1990s as in the two preceding decades. It also shows further sharp increases in the first several years of this century. The list of notable floods and tidal waves, and the list of hurricanes, typhoons, and blizzards worldwide show similar increases in recent years. Increases by comparison with 50 years ago can be dismissed as changes in reporting criteria, but the accelerating pattern of natural disasters in the last few decades is ominous. Another sign of the times is the gathering of the faithful. In the early years of this last dispensation, a gathering to Zion involved various locations in the United States, to Kirtland, to Missouri, to Nauvoo, and to the tops of the mountains. Always these were gatherings to prospective temples. With the creation of stakes and the construction of temples in most nations with sizable populations of the faithful, the current commandment is not to gather to one place, but to gather in stakes in our own homelands. There the faithful can enjoy the full blessings of eternity in a house of the Lord. There, in their own homelands, they can obey the Lord's command to enlarge the borders of his people and strengthen her stakes. In this way, the stakes of Zion are for a defense and for a refuge from the storm and from wrath when it shall be poured out without measure upon the whole earth. While we are powerless to alter the fact of the second coming and unable to know its exact time, we can accelerate our own preparation and try to influence the preparation of those around us. A parable that contains an important and challenging teaching on this subject is the parable of the 10 virgins. Of this parable, the Lord said, "And at that day, when I shall come in my glory, shall the parable be fulfilled, which I spake concerning the 10 virgins."
I do feel it's very important to recognize what the LDS teaches and what Chad and Lori get from this. And remember, they like to add their own twist to what they're learning. Meanwhile, we'll kind of jump back a year or two, depending, guys. So we're in July of 2006, and Lori and Joe Ryan are starting to get a little bit more aggressive during the custody battle of Tylee Ryan. It's July 6, 2006. An email shows up, and it's under Lori Ryan, but it's said to be Charles writing to Joe, Lori's ex-husband, under Lori's name. I think this will help you understand who Charles is a little bit better. Joe, your intent to make my simple phone call intended as a token of friendship into a vile threat from me, and that you are doing this to use it against me is not going to work. I don't know you, Joe, and our relationship could have been cordial. But Lori told me what you would do if I called, and I believed I could engage the gentleman in you to help work out these details and try to eliminate any contention between you and Lori. The simple fact is that you have not paid child support in 4 months, and Lori needs it for Tylee. So there you go. Most likely Joe did not adopt Colby because there's no mention of child support for Colby. Anyways, continuing the email. Lori has never blocked you from any visitation from Tylee, nor would she. Okay, guys, pay attention to this because I believe this might be partially true. It's you who calls all the time and wants to give her up early. She's speaking of Tylee. Then later you call and want to make up for it. If you give her up early, voluntarily, and then want to make up time, it doesn't work that way. Lori has retained her attorney again, and she will be in touch regarding collecting the past due child support. As far as Colby, in the right circumstances and with the right support, he's brilliant, sweet, and a loving kid. So I want to break from there because this kind of suggests maybe there was some kind of conversation going on about Colby. And he's reassuring Joseph Ryan that Colby is a sweet kid. What was Ryan saying about Colby? Makes you wonder. So Charles, or Lori pretending to be Charles, is telling him that Colby can really be a brilliant, sweet, loving kid under the right circumstances. Very interesting. And says, that's what I see in him, and calling and implying anything else in your prior email is beneath you. Now this is interesting because why would Charles want to write this? So this almost seems like a setup and something to look good on paper. That's what I'm seeing him, and calling and implying anything else in your prior emails beneath you, pushing him and calling him an asshole which he will testify to, I'm starting to believe this isn't Charles, is not going to work and will not happen again. So please leave him out of any additional emails. I will be adopting him in the next year, and I'm very sensitive to people giving Colby a hard time as I do my own. The best interest of Tylee is what's important here, and Lori doesn't believe you're working toward that purpose. That's why Tylee cries and screams every time she has to go to your house. She wants her mommy and the love that she gives her. You are her father, Joe, and we will not in any way get in the way of that. I know you love her, but you just need to hold up your end of the agreement. We will also go to whatever extent that is needed to get the best results for Tylee. Make no mistake about it, Joe. I just spent $65,000 in attorney's fees for a custody battle for my two boys, and I will make whatever Lori needs available to her. Oh, man, this is just so strange, isn't it, guys? How they are speaking to one another. I mean, these are kind of like threats within a threat. As far as your threat in the IRS is concerned, bring them on. I have the best CPA in town, and he knows Lori's situation in detail and is ready if they come calling. I hope you and Lori can come to a mutually satisfactory solution and not let it escalate as what happened to me. Just pay your child support as you agreed, and none of this will be necessary. Lori would work with you. She knows you're having a hard time financially, and I'll take care of Tylee until you stand up to your agreement. We wish you the best, Joe, and hope you understand that we didn't pick this battle, but I will defend Lori and Tylee as long as however expensive it gets. That's a little cocky. Also, please do not call Lori again. She does not want to hear from you. She will try to get Tylee to call you every other day when she's in her custody. If there's no answer, she will try again. If you continue to harass Lori, we will take further steps to eliminate the problem. Interesting. If you need to get in touch in an emergency, you can call me at 750-1234, and I will make sure what you need happens. With respect, Charles. Wow. So, if this is Charles, it's definitely not the man I expected he would be. But is it Lori? It sounds like it might be both of them together. What's interesting also is they're insinuating that Joe Ryan is threatening them. I don't have those emails right now. Hopefully get them in the future. And we know that child support will be an issue as we move forward. We'll hear back and forth on that, so you can kind of come to a better conclusion as we move later on in the timeline. So if you want, please comment below and tell me, who do you think wrote this email, why, and what do you think's going on? I do enjoy reading your comments, guys, and that's the truth. So as you can see, there is some tension going on between three of them at least. Some of those statements in that email is quite concerning in my humble opinion, guys. But we also know how manipulative Lori can be. So is Charles getting these emails truly? And is Charles truly responding in response to those emails? Or is this stuff that Lori's telling him and on and on? We do know how manipulative that Lori can be. So, not only that, what's going on with Colby? What is Ryan trying to tell Charles about Colby? There's something he's concerned about with Colby, and he's concerned about his visitation with Tylee too. So that's interesting. So there could be some regular family issues. I mean, when kids are kids, sometimes they can be little buttholes, especially when they're going through divorces. And Colby has said multiple times that he felt like he was the man of the house. So maybe he felt obligated to protect his mother. And so therefore, Joe seen that side of him, and probably like most step parents, if you've ever had kids that kind of are very protective of their mother, you know exactly what Joe Ryan is referring to. We have heard the accusations against Joe and his potentially or allegedly abuse towards the children, but now we're kind of getting these hints that Joe has concerns about the children. Very interesting. So let's go ahead and move forward. So I want to cite this to Wicked Truth and F bombs. I think that's how you say it. You can look them up on Google. They're actually very, very good at investigating and finding things like this. So an interesting thing that I have here, and I apologize, guys, for the background noise. I mean, there's nothing I can do about those, but they're very loud neighbors. Lori is supposedly living with her parents again with her two children, Tylee and Colby. Now, just so that I can start to try to catch up, I'm going to end part 11 here. I know a lot of you have been waiting for these, the sequence in this series. I am so sorry I'm taking so long to get it out. But here we go. I went ahead and cut this one short, and it's quite interesting, and I would love to hear what you have to say. Don't forget, guys, we still have girls missing. Take a moment to look at their faces. Also, I would like to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share the video. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.